My body matured faster than most girls my age. When I turned 18. My overprotective brother worried I'd be taken advantage of. So he asked his best friend to look after me. But the first time we met, that man's eyes never left my body. After I graduated from college, he kept crossing the line again and again. By day, he was my boss, and by night, I was his personal assistant. For 4 years, we kept our affair a secret. He molded me into exactly what he liked. And the worst part, I let him. One day, his ex-fiancée came back from overseas. He slipped out of my bed in the middle of the night and rushed to the airport to pick her up. Humiliated but unwilling to let go, I followed him there, only to watch him gently stroke another woman's hair right in front of me. He turned to me and said, "Jennifer Huckabee, 4 years ago, you were the one who crawled into my bed while I was drunk. The way you're behaving now, it's really pathetic." The way he looked at her was soft, and the way he mocked me was sharp and deliberate. I suddenly realized he was right. This was meaningless. So I lowered my head, texted my brother to tell him I'd accept the Sinclair family marriage proposal, then looked up at that man and smiled. "All right, right then. Goodbye, Marvin Huckabee." My brother called not long after. I could hear the relief in his voice through the call. Surely because he thought I had finally let go of the man I had loved for years. He did not know was that the man I was madly in love with was his best friend, Devon Woodford. After hanging up, I picked up the resignation letter I already prepared and headed for HR. However, the process stalled at the final step. "Miss Huckabee, if you want to resign within a week, you'll need the CEO's signature for approval." Even at the very end, I still could not avoid him. I tightened my grip on my phone, walked to the end of the empty hallway, and dialed that all too familiar number. The ringing went on for a long time. Just as I thought no one would pick up, the line clicked. A strange female voice came through. "Hello? Looking for Devon?" "He's in the shower." "In the shower." Those 3 words stabbed my chest like 1,000 poison needles. Nonetheless, my voice stayed calm, almost unnaturally, so no need. "Thank you." Before she could say anything else, I hung up. The screen went dark, reflecting my pale face. Less than 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed violently again. I stared at Devon's name on the screen for several seconds before answering. "Did you need something?" His tone was businesslike, cold and detached. Just last night, this same man had been on top of me, whispering my name intimately over and over again. My fingers whitened around the resignation letter. "Mr. Woodford, there's a document that needs your signature before the process can go through." He gave a low hum of acknowledgement, then added, almost as an afterthought, "Oh, right. Stop by later and pack up the rest of your stuff." "He's moving in. The apartment in the western suburbs is empty." "You can stay there. I promised Marvin. I take care of you." 4 years ago, he pulled me into his bed while drunk, tossing me the charity of being his bedmate. 4 years later, under the excuse of loyalty to his best friend, he was offering me a place to live. His carefully considerate gestures were so absurd, they almost made me laugh. "That won't be necessary, Mr. Woodford," I said, forcing a smile. "I'm an adult. I can take care of myself." Once he signed the resignation form and I finished my last handover, the ridiculous 4 years between us would finally come to an end. Me? I was getting married. I opened my eyes in the hotel room as morning light streamed in. For the first time in years, I felt more awake than in any morning I had spent by Dev. Inside, I called a car and returned to the villa I'd lived in for 4 years. However, the moment I stepped inside, I almost thought I had walked into the wrong house. The once minimalist black and gray space was instead drenched in warm tones. The entryway wall, where I had begged him for a month to let me hang even a single plush toy, had been transformed into a display filled with stuffed animals. "Melissa likes it this way." Devon's voice sounded from behind me. When I turned, he looked slightly troubled. "She came by yesterday, saw your things and got upset. It was not until he led me to the storage room that I understood what he meant. In the corner, all my luggage was piled up like garbage. It was a chaotic mess of things that once held meaning. The diamond necklace Devon had given me was crushed beyond recognition. And the pair of mugs we made together were shattered into pieces. He sighed softly, none of this is worth much anyway. Just throw it out. If you need something, I'll buy you new ones. Not worth much. My gaze fell on a small, colorful glass jar among the wreckage. The lid had broken open, revealing the folded paper stars inside. There were 1,001 of them. Each one I had made back when I secretly loved him. Each carrying a bit of affection I never dared to speak aloud. I picked up the cracked jar. Then tossed it, along with the other broken gifts, into the trash bin nearby. Devon's brows furrowed instantly. But I just smiled faintly. You're right, Mr. Woodford. Things that aren't worth anything should be thrown away when they're dirty or broken. That included my foolish, misplaced feelings. Ignoring the sudden darkness that crossed his face, I lowered my head and pulled out the resignation letter from my bag. Mr. Woodford, this is my. Before I could finish, his phone rang. Melissa Nicholson's voice came through clearly. In the quiet storage room. Dev, it's raining. Come pick me up. The emotions on his face vanished in an instant. I did not even glance at the document in my hand. And signed his name at the bottom. Take a taxi home. Text me when you get there. By the time Devon drove off, the rain became a downpour. The villa sat halfway up the mountain, so there was no way to hail a taxi. So I opened my umbrella and started walking downhill against the wind. Suddenly, I slipped. Pain shot through my knees and elbows as I hit the ground hard. Ignoring the sting, I clutched my bag tightly. It held my resignation letter. If that got wet, I would have to see him again, and I did not want that. Just then, a familiar black luxury car came speeding from afar. It did not slow down. As it passed, water splashed all over me, soaking me completely. Through the passenger side window, I caught a glimpse. It was Melissa, perfectly made up, sitting beside Devon, who smiled at her tenderly. My jaw clenched, pressing my palm to the cold, wet ground. I forced myself to stand. Pain seared through my knees, but I straightened my back and walked away in the opposite direction of the car. The resignation paperwork only needed 3 days to process. On the last day, I was in the office wrapping up my final handover. My phone lit up with a message from Devon. Bring in a cup of hot honey water. Technically, I was still his assistant, so I had to finish my duties. I made the drink, then knocked on his office door. As soon as I entered, I froze. Melissa was lying on the couch, her head resting on Devon's lap. He was gently massaging her lower abdomen. In these 4 years with him, when I felt the cramps during my period, I would curl up at my desk, barely able to straighten my back. All he ever did was toss me a box of painkillers. Don't let it affect your work. That was all he said. And coldly at that. My old self, the pathetic self, foolishly fell for that subterranean act. Keeping my expression neutral, I walked past them and set the cup on his desk. Mr. Woodford, your hot honey water is here. I turned to leave, but Melissa suddenly stood up. Wait. Her eyes studied me. You're Marvin Huckabee's sister. Before I could answer, her hand had swung across my face. My ear buzzed, my cheek instantly burning and swelling. Devon shot to his feet, startled. Mel. What are you doing? Her eyes reddened, tears welling as she pointed at me and turned to him. She's from the Huckabee family. In journal, she could have lived like a princess, but instead she came to you as an assistant. And you're telling me she doesn't like you? The air froze. Devon's gaze flickered across my face. Then he turned, gently pulling Melissa into his arms, wiping away her tears. His voice was soft, tinged with helplessness and unmistakable affection. Even if she does like me, it's all one-sided because in my heart there's only room for you. A flash of triumph crossed Melissa's face as she nestled into Devon's arms, her voice sweet and coy. Then fire her. I don't ever want to see her again. Devon's brows tightened almost imperceptibly, a faint hesitation flickering in his eyes. Seeing that Melissa picked up the cup of hot honey water on the desk And in the very next second she screamed as she flung it toward me. Ah, Dev. It's hot. Her scream was sharp enough to pierce through the air. As she clutched her red and fingertips. Devon's face instantly darkened. His cold gaze locked on me. Completely ignoring the angry burn spreading across my bare arm. Jennifer. You've been with me for 4 years. And you can't even handle something this simple. Were you targeting Mel on purpose? Before I could explain, he turned to call his secretary and Miss Lane. Miss Huckabee made a serious mistake. Dock her full month's salary and bonus. Also announce her error publicly in next week's company meeting. Nancy Lane shot me a quick, uneasy glance before speaking softly. But Mr. Woodford, Mrs. Huckabee has already resigned. The moment those words left her mouth, Melissa suddenly gasped and cried out in pain. Dev, since you're so eager to defend your precious assistant, I'll just leave forever. Evan's pupils constricted. Ignoring whatever the secretary said, he wrapped Melissa tightly in his arms. Mel, don't please. His icy glare cut into me like a blade. Jennifer, if this ever happens again, go back to journal. Even if Marvin himself comes begging, I won't let it slide. My burned arm throbbed, cold sweat rolling down my temples. Yet my voice came out steady and quiet. Don't worry, it won't happen again. He clearly had not expected that response. For a brief second, he froze. Then without another word, he scooped Melissa into his arms. Come, we're going to the hospital. As his gaze swept over the blistered skin on my arm, his brows furrowed even tighter. You're coming too worried about getting an infection. I said nothing and followed in the back seat. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Devon. I acted out of panic back there. But I've already lost Mel once. I can't lose her again. If you're upset, I'll make it up to you. I stared at those words. Then at the man in the front seat, fussing over Melissa like she was made of glass. The whole thing was so ridiculous. I almost laughed. With one tap, I blocked him. The next second, a friend request popped up. It was from my arranged fiancé, Francis and Claire. We had met once before. I took a slow breath, then pressed the accept button. The car stopped at the hospital's emergency entrance. Just as I opened the door to get out, another car came speeding from the side. Instinctively, Devon shielded Melissa in his arms. Meanwhile, I stumbled backward, falling hard into a nearby flower bed. When I got up, I saw him cradling Melissa as he rushed toward the Her hand had only a minor scrape. Miss, your arm's bleeding. You need to have it dressed, said a stranger as he handed me a clean handkerchief. I pressed it against the burn and murmured a quick thanks. Without a moment's hesitation, I walked to the curb and flagged down a cab. Airport, please. The car pulled away, heading in a direction without Devon. Meanwhile, after settling Melissa in a hospital room, Devon suddenly remembered my injury. He asked a nurse for some burn ointment. Where's the woman who came in with me? Her name is Jennifer Huckabee. What room is she in? The nurse checked the records and shook her head. Sorry, sir. There's no patient by that name. Devon froze, his grip on the ointment tube tightening. Then his phone rang. It was a call from Marvin. The moment he answered, my brother's furious roar exploded through the speaker. Is this how you take care of my sister, Devon? She's covered in injuries. You jerk. Devon frowned instantly, assuming I had run to complain to my brother. His voice dropped heavy with irritation. Is she with you? Put her on. Go screw yourself. My brother glanced at me standing there in the airport terminal, and his tone was sharp with anger. If you really want to make it up to her, then show up. In 2 days. She's getting married. And as you've taken care of her for so long, you'd better be there. The flight to the capital was a blur of throbbing pain and exhaustion. When I landed, I expected to see a driver holding a placard. Instead, standing near the arrival's gate, tall and imposing in a charcoal trench coat, was Francis Sinclair. I froze. We had met only once, briefly, at a business gala 2 years ago. He was the heir to the Sinclair shipping empire, a man known for his ruthless efficiency but quiet demeanor. Jennifer, he said. His voice was deeper than I remembered, lacking the impatient edge that always coated Devon's tone. He didn't wait for me to speak. He stepped forward, taking my bag from my uninjured hand. His eyes immediately dropped to my other arm, where the burn was red and angry. I'm fine, I lied, reflexively pulling away. You're not, he stated simply. He didn't drag me or scold me. He just guided me toward the exit with a hand hovering near the small of my back, never quite touching, respectful of the space I clearly needed. Marvin called me. He said you were coming home. I look a mess, I whispered, realizing my clothes were still damp from the rain and stained with mud from the fall. You look like you survived, Francis said as he opened the car door for me. The drive to the Sinclair estate was silent, but it wasn't the suffocating silence I was used to with Devon. It was peaceful. When we arrived, he didn't take me to a guest room. He took me to the master suite. The wedding is in 2 days, Francis said, pointing to a first aid kit he had placed on the vanity. But we can postpone it if you're doing this out of anger. I looked at him. He was handsome in a sharp, classical way, dark eyes, strong jaw, a patience that felt foreign to me. I'm not doing it out of anger, Francis, I said, my voice trembling. I'm doing it because I need to breathe. I need to not be that girl anymore. Francis opened the ointment. He treated my burn with a gentleness that made my chest ache. Then let's get you married, Jennifer. Devon Woodford arrived at the wedding venue, a cliffside cathedral overlooking the ocean, with the confidence of a man who had never been denied anything. He had spent the last 48 hours in a rage. He was convinced this was a stunt. Jennifer, the woman who folded paper stars and kept his coffee at exactly 180 degrees, was not getting married. She was trying to provoke him. Stay here, he told Melissa, who was pouting in the passenger seat of his sports car. Why do we even have to be here? She's just a petty assistant, Melissa whined. She's Marvin's sister, Devon snapped, slamming the door. He stormed toward the entrance, but Marvin blocked his path. Marvin looked different today, not like a friend, but like a wall. You have some nerve showing up here, Marvin growled. Where is she? Devon demanded, adjusting his cufflinks. Tell her to stop this nonsense. The joke is over. I'll give her a raise. I'll even let her move back into the city apartment. Marvin laughed, a cold, bitter sound. You think this is about an apartment? You destroyed her, Devon. And now, you're going to watch her be happy. Happy? Devon scoffed. With Francis Sinclair. The man is a statue. She loves me. She loved the idea of you, Marvin corrected. And you killed it. Before Devon could push past, the organ music began. The heavy oak doors swung open. Devon froze. Jennifer stood at the end of the aisle. She wasn't wearing the simple, modest dresses she wore for him. She was in a breathtaking gown of silk and lace, her back straight, her hair cascading in waves. She looked regal. She looked distant. And when she looked up, her eyes scanned the crowd. For a split second, they locked onto Devon's. He waited for the falter. He waited for the look of longing, the tearful hesitation. It never came. She looked through him as if he were a ghost, her gaze settling warmly on the man waiting at the altar. Francis Sinclair watched her not with possession, but with reverence. Devon felt a strange, cold pit open in his stomach. She's really doing it, he thought. She's actually walking away. I do, her voice rang out, clear and steady. As Francis kissed her, Devon felt the first crack in his armor. It wasn't just a resignation letter. It was a life sentence. 1 month later. Devon stared at the spreadsheet on his screen, the numbers blurring together. Where is the Q3 report? He barked into the intercom. I sent it to your email, sir, came the trembling voice of his new assistant, a fresh graduate named Sarah. It's not formatted correctly. The summary goes on top, not the bottom. How hard is it? He swept a stack of papers off his desk. Sarah began to cry. Devon pinched the bridge of his nose, squeezing his eyes shut. Get out. Just get out. The office was quiet. Too quiet. For 4 years, he hadn't realized how much noise Jennifer filtered out for him. She handled the rude clients, the scheduling conflicts, the coffee, the dry cleaning. But more than that, she was a presence. A calming anchor. He reached for his coffee. It was lukewarm and too sweet. He spat it out. Damn it. His phone buzzed. It was Melissa. Babe, are you coming home? I bought that bag I wanted. The card declined, so I used the emergency one. Devon stared at the text with a rising sense of nausea. Melissa had moved in the day Jennifer left. The villa, once a sanctuary of minimalist peace, was now cluttered with Melissa's things, loud art, clothes thrown everywhere, half-eaten food on the counters. He remembered the paper stars. He had gone back to the trash bin that rainy night, hours after Jennifer left, but the garbage truck had already come. He opened his laptop and typed a name into the search bar, Jennifer Sinclair. News articles popped up. There were photos of her at a charity gala in Paris. She was wearing a midnight blue dress, holding a champagne flute, laughing at something Francis had whispered in her ear. She looked radiant. She had gained a little weight, healthy weight. Her cheeks were rosy. The shadows under her eyes were gone. Devon zoomed in on her hand. The diamond on her finger was massive, tasteful. But it was the way her hand rested on Francis's arm that made Devon's chest tighten. It was natural. Trusting. She's faking it, he muttered to the empty room. She has to be. 3 months post-wedding. Devon was drinking more. The business was suffering, he had lost 2 major contracts that Jennifer usually smoothed over. He came home late to find Melissa throwing a tantrum. You promised we'd go to the Maldives, she shrieked, throwing a pillow at him. You're always working. You never treated Jennifer like this. Devon stopped. Don't say her name. Why? Because you miss her. Melissa sneered. She was a doormat, Devon. A pathetic little servant. Devon looked at Melissa, really looked at her. He saw the cruelty in her eyes. The selfishness. She was worth 10 of you, Devon said quietly. Melissa gasped. How dare you? I came back for you. I left everything in London for you. Did you? Devon walked to his study. He had hired a private investigator a week ago. Not to investigate Jennifer, but to investigate Melissa. He needed to know why she had really returned. He opened the dossier on his desk. Subject, Melissa Nicholson. Reason for return, visa expired. Fired from position at Vogue UK for embezzlement. Evicted from London apartment. No known fiancé overseas. She hadn't come back for love. She had come back because she was broke and needed a bailout. Devon felt the blood drain from his face. Jennifer had been right. The day at the airport, the mockery, it was all a game to Melissa. And he had sacrificed the only woman who ever truly loved him for a fraud. He walked back into the living room. Melissa was typing on her phone, probably complaining to a friend. Pack your bags, Devon said. His voice was dead calm. What? You lied. About London. About the fiancé. About everything. He threw the file onto the coffee table. Get out of my house. Tonight. Devon, baby, listen. Melissa tried to grab his arm. He recoiled as if burned. Don't touch me. You're disgusted. The way you treated her, it makes me sick. But not as sick as I am with myself for letting you. By midnight, the villa was empty. Devon sat on the floor of the storage room, staring at the empty corner where Jennifer's luggage used to be. He wept. 6 months had passed since the wedding. Jennifer stood on the balcony of the Grand Hotel, the cool night air brushing against her skin. Cold. Francis appeared behind her, draping his jacket over her shoulders. Just thinking, she smiled, leaning back into him. Their marriage had started as an agreement, protection for her, stability for him. But Francis was a man of infinite patience. He had wooed her slowly. Cooked for her. Listened to her. He didn't mock her hobbies, he bought her specialized paper for her origami and framed the ones she made. He's here, you know, Francis said softly. Jennifer stiffened. Devon? He's in the ballroom. He's been staring at the door for an hour waiting for you. Francis turned her around, his hands resting on her waist. You don't have to talk to him. We can leave. Jennifer looked at her husband. No. I'm not running anymore. She walked back into the ballroom, Francis at her side. Devon was there. He looked thinner, sharper. His eyes were dark circles of exhaustion. When he saw her, he straightened up, adjusting his tie nervously. He looked like a man drowning. Jennifer, he breathed as he approached. He ignored Francis entirely. You look incredible. Hello, Devon, she said. Her voice was polite, indifferent. Like she was greeting a distant cousin. Can we talk? Please. Just 5 minutes. Alone. Francis looked at Jennifer. She gave a small nod. Francis stepped back but remained within eyeshot, his gaze warning Devon not to try anything. Devon led her to a quiet corner. I know everything, he blurted out. About Melissa. I kicked her out. I know I was an idiot. I was blind. I'm glad you found out, Jennifer said. Jen, I can't sleep. I can't work. The apartment. I bought it for you. It's in your name. I never let anyone else stay there. He reached for her hand, but she pulled it back. I miss you. Not as an assistant. As, everything. I love you. The words hung in the air. 4 years ago, she would have killed to hear them. Now, they sounded like desperate noise. You don't love me, Devon, she said sadly. You love that I made your life easy. You love that I worshipped you. But you never respected me. I can change. I have changed. It's too late. She held up her left hand. The diamond caught the light. I love my husband. Devon's face crumbled. He doesn't know you like I do. He doesn't know your favorite songs, or how you like your coffee, or... He knows how I like my tea, Jennifer interrupted. Because I don't drink coffee, Devon. I only drank it because you liked it. I hate coffee. Devon stared at her, stunned. Francis knows me, she continued. You only knew the reflection of yourself in my eyes. She turned to leave. I won't give up. Devon called after her, his voice cracking. I'll wait. If it takes 10 years, I'll wait until you realize this marriage is a sham. Jennifer didn't look back. She walked straight into Francis's arms, and for the first time, she kissed him in public, a deep, searing kiss that told the whole room, and Devon Woodford, exactly where her heart belonged. Devon didn't stop. Over the next few months, he became a specter in Jennifer's life. He sent flowers to her office, Francis threw them out. He showed up at charity events. He even tried to partner with the Sinclair Group on business deals, offering terms that were financial suicide just to get into a meeting with her. It was pathetic. It was the exact behavior he had mocked Jennifer for. But the climax came on a stormy Tuesday in November. Jennifer was driving home from her art studio. The roads were slick. A truck swerved into her lane. She yanked the wheel, and her car spun off the road, crashing into a guardrail. She lost consciousness. When she woke up, she was in the hospital. Jen. Her vision cleared. 2 men were standing there. Francis, looking terrified, gripping her hand. And Devon, standing by the door, drenched in rain, blood on his shirt. What happened? She croaked. You crashed, Francis said, kissing her forehead. Devon, he was following you. Jennifer looked at Devon. I was behind you, Devon said, his voice shaking. I saw the truck. I pulled you out before the car caught fire. He had saved her life. The burn on his arm, fresh and blistering, mirrored the one she had suffered months ago. Thank you, she whispered. Devon's eyes lit up with hope. Jen, thank you for saving my life, she repeated firmly. But that doesn't change anything. The hope died in his eyes. I almost died today, she said, looking at Francis. And the only thing I could think about was that I hadn't told Francis I loved him enough times. Devon flinched as if struck. Go home, Devon, Francis said, his voice hard but not unkind. You did a good thing today. Don't ruin it. Devon looked at the couple. He saw the way Francis brushed the hair from her forehead. He saw the peace in Jennifer's eyes, a peace he had never been able to give her because he was too busy creating storms. He turned and walked out of the hospital room. He walked out of the hospital, into the rain, and kept walking. The Sinclair estate garden was in full bloom. Jennifer sat on the patio, holding a baby boy in her lap. He had Francis's dark eyes and her smile. Marvin sat opposite her, drinking iced tea. You look happy, sis. I am, she said. She looked down at her son. I really am. Heard about Devon, Marvin said cautiously. Jennifer looked up. Oh. He sold the company. Moved to Europe. I heard he's starting over. Smaller scale. No assistants. Just him. Good, Jennifer said. And she meant it. She felt no anger, no longing. Just a distant wish that he would find his own peace, far away from hers. Francis walked out onto the patio. He leaned down and kissed Jennifer, then tickled the baby's stomach. Ready for lunch? He asked. Starving, Jennifer smiled. As they walked inside, a sudden gust of wind blew a piece of paper across the lawn. It was an old origami star, one Jennifer had made to show her son how to fold paper. It tumbled across the grass, colorful and bright. In another life, Jennifer would have chased it. She would have hoarded it, terrified of losing even a scrap of affection. But now, she didn't even look back. She had a whole sky full of real stars right here. Epilogue. Devon sat in a cafe in Florence. He was older, grayer. He ordered a coffee. When it arrived, he looked at it. Actually, he said to the waiter in broken Italian. Take this back. I'll have tea. Tea, signore? Yes. Tea. He pulled a small, worn notebook from his pocket. It was filled with scribbles, memories he was trying not to forget, lessons he had learned too late. He opened to the last page. There was a photo taped there. It was a paparazzi shot of Jennifer and Francis leaving the hospital 2 years ago. She looked safe. Devon closed the book. He had molded her into what he liked, but she had remade herself into what she deserved. He took a sip of the tea. It was bitter, but he drank it anyway. It was the taste of penance. And for the first time in years, he accepted it.